Generally, when I ask people this question, and even in Ibotta, when I ask people this question, they all tell me what feature they're talking about. And that's really what we're here to get rid of today, right? Those are all features. We're here to talk about problems, right? Problems are what we're here to do. PMs are here to solve problems. So let's talk about how we can solve the right problem at the right time and mitigate risk along the way. Cool, so how do we do it? We can all go home. This is how we do it. There's nothing else after this slide. 5 parts, and we'll go through each of these in a little bit more detail. So part 1, know your product. You gotta know it inside and out. Know your business, right? Know your competitive landscape. Know how your business operates. Know the people inside of your business. Know what your business goals are, short-term, medium-term, long-term. Then you'll need to know what your problems are. What's the core problem that you're trying to solve? What are the problems that lead into that problem? We'll tell you more about what that means in a sec. Know your priorities. How do you figure out what to do and when? And then lastly, know your strategy, right? There are lots of different ways to approach all of the above. You have different options available to you. Make sure you know exactly what you're doing, and most importantly, with your strategy, what you're not doing. Cool. If there's one thing to take away from this, it's this really complicated thing you've probably never seen before. It's an if, then, because statement. This is the core building block of a test-driven roadmap. If I change something, then some outcome will happen because of some assumption. We'll break this down a little bit more, and I'll tell you how we use it at Ibotta, and how you can use it in your own product world. So let's talk a little bit about knowing your product. Starting there, if you don't know your product, then I don't know, are you a PM? And it all starts with your business's core value, right? We think about product as a means to an end. It's a tool for our users. It's a tool for our customers. What is that core value that your business provides? And some questions to help suss that out are things like these. How are users' lives better because of your product offering? How are you tangibly adding value? How are you tangibly changing your users' lives for the better? Can you define that? What are you better at than everybody else who's trying to solve similar problems, right? What is it about you and your company and your product that is a standalone secret sauce, right? That's what it's all about. And then another way to think about it is if you could go to market with only one thing, what would it be? If you had to strip away everything from your product and you had to choose one thing to throw out there and see if people bite, what is it, right? What's your holy grail? What are you protecting? What are you building around? Right? Because really, when you have a mature product, you have all of these other features, right? But there's still this core thing in the middle that you're building around. And what we need to figure out and what you need to know is get rid of the noise. What is that core thing? Right? What is that core business value? So at Ibotta, it's pretty much this. We give you offers, find them, you buy some stuff, you tell us what you bought, earn cash. That's what it is. That's the core. That's what we do. We do that in a lot of different ways, but that's what we do. Right? Our mission tries to reflect that at a higher level from the product, make every purchase rewarding. Right? That's what we do. We think we do it better than anybody else. Go ahead, download the app. I'll give you my referral code. You can be the judge of that. How do we implement that in terms of a user journey? This would be kind of our core user flow. Every user that actually completes the experience does this at some point in their experience with Ibotta. They download the app, they register, they onboard, they find the retailers that they shop at, they find some offers there. So like if you like Cheerios and you buy them at King Soopers, we might have an offer there. They go actually shop, they pay for those Cheerios, they tell us what they bought in a number of different ways. We give them cash back and then they cash out. Done. Right? Well, I've been in Ibotta 7 months and I'm still learning about a lot of different things that we do and that we have and how we build it. There's lots of other stuff that we have in there to theoretically make this flow a little bit easier to navigate. So for you, my challenge, my question for you is, do you know what this is, right, for your product? Do you know what is that core user flow? What is that core building block that forms the foundation of everything that you do and everything that you build? To help drive this home, let's talk about a few common examples. Right? Does anyone have any idea what would Slack's core building block be? Out of curiosity. Thoughts? Yeah?
I mean, like, in terms of like I'm sure that there's probably a lot of different pathways into the product, but I mean, it'd be register, invite other people, or create a team, invite other people to your team, and start to talk.
Yeah, talk, right? Yeah, communicate, right? Absolutely, right? What is that one thing that they build everything else around, right? I would argue it's just sending a message from one person to another, right? And they do that better than everybody else, but all those other features are there to facilitate you sending a message from one person to another. All right, so as a PM, you should know that, and you should know what is that one thing that you're building everything else around. Lift. We've all taken lifts. What's the core building block here?
Connecting people with rides.
Connect people with rides. Excellent.
Getting you from point A to point B.
Getting you from point A to point B. Yeah. And getting you is an interesting one because here's a tricky question. How's Lyft different from Uber? They're very different companies.
Fewer conflicts.
Yeah.
Well put.
Fewer conflicts, yeah.
There's a lot of marketing differences. How they treat their drivers.
Yep.
Target markets, they focus on. Uber's much more international. Lyft's
Yep.
more US focus.
Yep.
Lyft's also strictly a rideshare company or a transportation service where Uber has a million different things they're trying to do.
Yeah, does Lyft have an equivalent of Uber Eats? No. Do you see Uber scooters on the street? No, those are all deliberate product plays, right? You think about Lyft, it's transporting people. It's a very people-focused company. Their drivers are arguably a little bit more interesting, no offense if any of you are Uber drivers. And there's more emphasis on the user and on the user experience, both from a user, like a rider, and a driver perspective, right? Arguably. Uber is more focused on moving just stuff, right? You think about moving food, you think about they're getting into freight, right? You hear all these talks about Uber Freight and building, Uber making deals with Tesla to get, or Convoy, all these other companies out there to move freight, right? So they're different core building blocks and different ideas that the product offerings are built around. So really, really important to know what is your core business, your business's core value, right? Know your identity, because if you know who you are, you also know who you are not, which is just as important, which helps you say no to things later down the road. Cool, so you know what you're good at. All right, let's talk about your business, right? You know what your product is, you know what you're trying to do. How do you build a business around this? Your business exists, right? What's your business goal? We all want to make cash, right? That's why we all play the game, right? I thought this might have been Mark Zuckerberg. I don't know. This is just off of Giphy, but it looks like Mark. But your business goals are going to be more specific than just make a boatload of money, right? Your business is going to have a strategy. These hopefully look familiar to you. You might see these. Your company leadership might get up and talk about these. Maybe this quarter you're focused on top-line revenue. Maybe you're focused on profitability. Maybe you're focused on engagement, users, daily active users, monthly active users. Maybe you're talking about growth rate, market share, customer LTV, right? These are all business goals that businesses have. A good business will pick one, maybe two, but probably just one of these things, right? Focus is king. If you're trying to do all of these things, good luck, Godspeed. But know which one. And if you don't know, go ask your CEO. Go ask your business leader, because as a product leader in your company, if you don't know this, you're dead in the water before you get started.
How often does that change with the business goals?
Yeah, I think it depends on the company. Some companies will change it quarterly. I would say a lot of companies change it annually. In my experience at Pipeline Deals and at Ibotta, it's generally annually. Of course, we want all of these things, right? As a company, any company wants all of these things, but you have to focus and choose one to emphasize, right? Because if you have two things that compete, like one option that will get you market share, another one that will get you profitability, which one are you going to pick? You got to choose. From what I've seen, it's annually, but has anyone else seen other cadences, maybe quarterly?
Every deal.
Every deal?
Yeah.
Yeah, that can happen too.
They don't usually stay around long.
Right. Yeah, they're pushing.
No, I was going to say, for me, it's per product.
Per product?
Which is
Yeah,
difficult, but
that is difficult. And we'll talk about why that might be difficult
cool.
in a second. Awesome. So I think the one thing that's really important to keep in mind too is that product is just one lever your business has to achieve those business goals, right? You are working with sales, you are working with marketing, you are working with operations. Your company leadership team is pulling all of these levers to try and get it all to work and get the airplane to fly, unlike this Boeing 737 MAX 8, which has been having trouble, right? You don't want to be this. So you need to be very, very clear on what your North Star is. So you know what your business goals are, right? And we're going to build this roadmap together over the course of the next 15, 20 minutes or so. But you have your business outcome, right? And I'm just going to pick user LTV just for sake of argument and example tonight. This is also something that Ibotta is focusing on as well in terms of user retention. And we talked about product identity, right? And you need to have one business outcome. We'll talk about why in a second. But knowing your product identity should be the lens with which you make all of your decisions, right? Am I reinforcing our identity? If I'm not, I should probably think about something else, right? Now, you can swing for the fences and hope you get lucky and like magically retain more users when you build stuff, or you can test your way into it, which is what we're going to dive into a little bit more here. If you try swinging for the fences, you don't really know, right? You don't really know why you're successful or not, and you can't build on that, right? You can't replicate that. So kind of to your question here, good features generally don't mean good business outcomes. That's not guaranteed, right? What I would argue, and if you're struggling with just this, and Ibotta has done this from time to time where we try to measure features based on business outcomes, good features mean good user outcomes. Right? We talked at the very beginning about generating tangible value for the user, changing their lives in some minute way and changing it for the better. You need to be able to define that and measure that. Right? And then user outcomes translate to business outcomes. Right? So if you can define your user outcome, how does your user's life change as a result of using your product? The business outcome should follow. Cool. So the question is, like, know which outcome you want, right? What is that? And so let's talk about that. All right, so we're building this together here. So we have our business outcome, let's call it user LTV, as measured by retention. We have our user outcome. We got to figure out what goes here in our roadmap, in our test-driven roadmap. Cool, so this is where we go into part 3, know your problems, all right? All right, so again, we're not Mark, right? We're not throwing cash everywhere. We're all in this room for a reason. We're all here because we have problems that we're trying to overcome as PMs or aspiring PMs. And we're here because our business is not performing perfectly. Otherwise, we'd probably be at Ratio having a beer right now. So the question that I would put to you is this. What is the current state of your product offering? What is the current state of your product experience that is preventing you from reaching your business goals? Right? It's a really interesting exercise to ask everyone around your company and to even ask your users, your potential users, or even people who are in your target market segment. Right? And to simplify it, what is the current state preventing you from achieving business goals? Right? Breaking all that down, this is what we're looking for. The easy question to ask is, why are users rejecting your product? Right? Why are they telling you no? As a PM, you should be asking this question all the time, right? All the time. All right, so as an example, Segways. People didn't take off, right? There's a reason for that. The product is pretty cool. The thing works. It's impressive technology. Why didn't it take off? Well, you kind of look like an idiot when you're walking around or driving around. I don't even know what it is. You're riding a Segway around. But how is a Segway really different from a hoverboard? Right? It's pretty much the same thing, just without the handle. Right? And these sold off the shelves. Planes banned them because they caught on fire. Problem. But you see the name of this one? It's called a Swagtron. It's pretty cool. It's got some swag. So all of a sudden, this seemed really cool, and they took off. Right? So why are users rejecting your product? Here are some options of how to go figure that out. Right? Go get a survey tool. SurveyMonkey has a free option, or at least it used to. I don't know anymore. But go find a free survey tool, get a bunch of users, blast this email out, get some survey responses. You can do that by tomorrow. Make it harder to cancel or stop using your product, or if you're in charge of a portion of your product, your feature. Right? If you have a cancellation flow, if a user ever deliberately has to stop doing something or tell you to stop, that they want to stop using it, make that just a little bit harder and drop one question in there. Why are you stopping? Right? Give them four questions, give them four answers, 5 answers, make them pick one, standardize your data, get a big sample size, and you've got something to work with. Right? You see after every Lyft ride, right? 4 stars, 5 stars, that's what they're doing, right? They just want data, and they want lots of it, and they want to track it over time. If you don't really have either of these options available to you, and you have a sales team, go talk to them. They're really not that bad, I promise. I know they come to you every day and say, hey, you need to build me this, and I need it like tomorrow. Like, it's not that easy, right? You just copy and paste the code and ship it, and it's done. But when you ask them why we're losing deals, they will tell you. And they will tell you a lot because they hate losing every single one of them. But don't have a conversation about features. Like, we lost this deal because we didn't have this feature. We lost this deal because we didn't solve this problem. Start to track that over time if you can. All right, so here's what we do at Ibotta, right? This is a survey we run on a regular cadence. We ask people, do you enjoy using Ibotta? And if people say no, we give them a couple reasons to choose from. Is it because the content is bad? Is it because the value to effort is bad? Is it because the app is confusing? Is it because we don't really get the credit that you expect? Is there some other reason? Or do we email you too much? I've heard we email you too much, so maybe we should look at that. As a product person, I'm not super interested in communication. I don't really control that or have an impact on that as much as some of these other things. And same with content. I don't go out and try and find new offers for our users. So we can take a couple of those out. We have an obvious trend here. These two are more prevalent than the bottom two. So now we've got something to work with, right? Why are users rejecting Ibotta? Well, they're confused, and it's hard to earn a couple dollars back. Maybe there's some sort of connection there, right? A little suspicious. All right.
How do you guys come up with the 6 options to give people?
Yeah. Great question. We try to keep it as broad as possible and try to get different categories, right? We have hypotheses going into it. Well, we think it might be this, we think it might be that. And if we see things, so these are actually time period over time period trends, so we can see how things change. And if others starts to get really big, we know there's a theme in here that we're not picking up.
Gotcha.
And that's when we might pull it out and put it up here as its own category.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah?
So is this different than an NPS?
It is different. Yep. This is pure NPS is like, would you recommend this?
Yeah.
Useful, like very useful. This is purely why are you not using my product?
Okay.
All right. So let's go back to the grand hypothesis here, that one thing to take away. Can we take that information and take that knowledge and turn it into a hypothesis here? Right? And how do we break it down? Right? What does the data tell us we should do? What should we focus on? Well, we just saw that. What's the business outcome we want? Can we tie those two things together? And then can we make some sort of assumption based on what we know about our market? Right? Based on what we know about our users, based on what we know about how they use our product. Right? This is where PMs make a living. Right? Your job is to articulate that assumption in a convincing way, and then go figure out if you're right or wrong. So let's turn that into a hypothesis. If Ibotta improves user value to effort, for example, then retention will improve because users will decide that Ibotta actually does add value to their lives and doesn't require too much effort to actually get that value. All right, this is something that we can go test. It's an underlying hypothesis that can drive our entire technology org. All right, so we have our user outcome. Awesome. I threw a plus in there because if we improve this, then this gets better, right? It's kind of a shorthand way of identifying is it a positive or negative correlation, and another shorthand way of just really going back to our hypothesis. We think that's going to have that kind of relationship. Great. All right, so we know what user outcome we want, but you need to know how to measure it too, because you need to know if you're actually getting to where you want to go. So a neat trick, if you ever have one of these things, well, I think this is going to happen, right? If we do this, then this will happen. Because XYZ, just throw in as measured by at the end, right? And everyone can get on board around how you're going to identify success and progress. We like to talk about this concept of one and done. Do you do it once and never come back again? Right? That's something that we can measure. That's something that everyone in the business can understand. And that's something that we can look at over time and see if we impact our other stuff that's going to come over here. Cool. All right, so let's get into it a little bit here. So what problems then within your product experience are hindering this user outcome? Right? Why is this value to effort ratio so bad? Why does it take so much effort to get a couple dollars back on Ibotta? This is where we start talking about our priorities and getting into the nuts and bolts. So a wise person once said, you can't build what you don't measure. And then another wise person said, actions speak louder than words. So if we go back to our original user journey, well, why don't we just measure this? Let's start here, right? Let's see where, if we take this and put it into like a funnel report, let's see where the leak is. Where are people falling out, right, of this entire process? I'm going to put up some fake numbers here. No corporate secrets being spilled. Sorry if you came to get some corporate data from Ibotta. But you can start to see that if you do this, you'll probably see certain trends, right? You'll see drop-offs at every step. You'll see some drop-offs that are bigger than others. I have 59 3 times because it's hard for us at Ibotta to actually know if you go shopping because you don't interact with the app then. But you come back here when you share purchases with us. And you can start to see, like if you put this report together, you'll see where your users are falling out of that core flow. And those are places where you can start to actually investigate what's going on. So like in this particular example, we had 21% fallout here and almost 30% fallout here. If you wanted to prioritize where to focus and what to think about, this is a good spot. In this example, if we just fix these two issues, we're solving half the problem, right? That's 50% of people dropping out right there. Okay, so let's take that, let's run with it, right? Out of all those different areas that we could look in our product experience, in our core user flow, we want to focus here because we want to make offer discovery. So the Cheerios offer, the bagels offer, right? The Kleenex offer. We want to make those easier to find if people aren't finding those by what we're measuring. Likewise, redemption friction. Once you share purchases with us, why aren't you actually getting your cash back? Okay, right? And I threw in a couple things here as measured by, right? Are they actually clipping, unlocking, right? Are they actually selecting that offer? Are they actually submitting receipts to Ibotta? Right? We can measure those things. And implicitly here, we have a hypothesis that if we improve this, this will get better. Right? That if we improve this, or if we lower this, if the friction goes down, there's an inverse correlation here, and this will get better. Okay, so now we need to go start asking more questions. And we're just digging, right? You're digging, you're digging, you're digging. We haven't even started talking about features. We've been talking for probably 20, 25 minutes, right? Features are the very last thing you do. What you should be doing is asking all sorts of questions, right? Just let your mind go. Why aren't users finding offers? What's stopping them? Why are they hidden? Which offers are they looking for? These are all valid questions. If you have a user research team, go ask them. If you don't have a user research team, go ask your customers. They're going to tell you what you want to know, or what you need to know, I should say. What's so hard about redeeming offers? What's so hard about submitting receipts in the Ibotta world? What is so hard about that? Let me go find out. I want to go learn these things, right? You can go do surveys. You can use tools like Mixpanel, which are product analytics tools, to get user behavior data, right? And this is one way. This is one question we ask our users. You can link your King Soopers loyalty card with the app. Why are you disconnecting? There's an obvious reason why people are disconnecting. Keep digging. Dig, 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 until you feel like you have enough to make a credible claim and to make a credible assumption in that hypothesis statement. If we do this, then this will happen because, right? That because is really important. And you dig just far enough until you can put something in that because clause. So maybe it's something like this, right? Maybe if we added filtering, right? They're really hard to find because there's no filtering in the app. Maybe we should personalize. You don't care about Kleenex, you might care about Kleenex. Can we personalize those offers for you and only show you what you're interested in based on what we know about you? Should we categorize them? Maybe, I don't know. What should we do? Probably test it, right? Receipt upload, barcode scanning when you're sharing a receipt with Ibotta. Is this a really painful experience? Do you have to barcode scan products when you upload your receipt? Does it take a really long time, right? Once you share your receipt with us, do we take days to get back to you? Do we not read? Does the actual receipt reading when you take a picture, does that actually work? All right, these are all questions these are all kind of hypotheses that you can come to over time as you dig a little bit more every single time once you pull back the layers of the onion. Now we're starting to talk about features, right? And this is when you can start to get with your product design team, with your engineers, and you can start to think about, okay, what's an MVP here? What is the least we can do to test this theory that if we add filtering into the app, then people will discover more offers, right? What's the smallest tweak we can make with the least amount of effort possible just to prove that this relationship exists? That by adding some sort of filtering capability, then users will discover more of these offers in the app. Cool. So here's your test roadmap, right? This is where, as a PM, you need to start thinking about, okay, these are all the tests that I want to go figure out. Which of these tests is going to have the biggest impact on my ROI spaces over here, my high impact spaces? Well, now it's a prioritization exercise, right? These are all credible hypotheses. You feel pretty good about these as a PM. So how are you going to figure out which ones to do first? All right, we could talk about ideation and design and figuring out what the MVP actually is. We'll save that for another time. Something that I like to use, it's a quick and dirty exercise here. It's the 60-second exercise. I think a lot of different PMs use this, right? These are the 2 high ROI problem spaces that we talked about. And then just throw in a couple other variables here. If you don't, is it important to your technical infrastructure? If you don't do it, is the house going to burn down? You should probably do that if it is going to burn down because you need the house. Does it align strategically, right? Coming back to that business impact, are we aligned? Is this going to drive, in this case, retention? But if your goal is market share, do we see a viable path to increase market share? And then get with your engineers. What's your swag size? What's your t-shirt size? Is this a big project? Is this a small project? And then you can assign point values to high, mediums, and lows, and you'll get a priority score out the other end. You should be able to do 1 row in a minute, so you could do a 15-minute meeting and just have a gut check prioritization of where, if you had to make a decision right now, where should you start? Cool. Awesome. So if we go back to our test-driven roadmap, here it is in all its glory, right? We started with understanding our product, making sure that we are staying within our problem space, within our product identity, which is within that user flow, which we are. Great. We talked about the business, right? User LTV. That's what we're focusing on as a business this quarter, this year, this deal, whatever the case may be. We have a fundamental hypothesis as a technology organization that by improving this for the user, that will drive this, right? So we're still trying to prove this assumption true. And then we figured out, okay, where are the highest ROI problem spaces that we can be working in? Easy way to do that is just to measure that core flow, right? Get to the offer discovery. We got to these 2 places for Ibotta. And then keep digging, pulling back the layers, right? And figuring out what your feature tests are. How are you going to order those? And what you'll find is you'll test these things and you'll see some things move. You'll see some things that don't move, right? And you want to make sure that it's not so big like, oh, is filtering moving retention? Like, that's hard, right? It's such a small tweak here. And if you expect it to impact the business on this level, you're probably more often than not going to see no impact, right? And it's going to be an inconclusive test, and that's really hard. So you need to build the chain of hypotheses to get there and prove them along the way. So hopefully over time you'll see some tests outperform others, and you'll say, oh, we found something here. There's something to this, right? Maybe we should peel this back right here. It's taking a long time for users to get credit from Ibotta. So let's start digging there, right? How can we improve that, right? What are the things we can do here? What are the questions we have about the user experience that we can go test, right? And just keep working backwards. And over time, you'll find that maybe it's filtering and personalization, but not categorization that actually has an impact. And maybe you'll find that it's fixing barcode scanning and time to credit, but not necessarily improve receipt reading that actually has an impact. right? And over time, you'll start to see like, oh yeah, these things here are driving receipt submission rate. And once we've been able to show that we can drive and improve that receipt submission rate, does that actually improve our one and done rate? Right? And you can start to build back to business goals, and you can start to prove all of those initial hypotheses you made about your users and assumptions you made about your product at the very beginning. Cool. All right, so bringing it all back together here, we had 5 parts. Take things away from today. Part 1, know your product. What's your core value add? What's your product identity? Make sure you know what you are and what you aren't. Know your business, right? What's your North Star focus? What is that business value? What is the focus at a business level that your organization has? If you're shifting by product, if you're shifting by deal, I would challenge your business leadership to be a little bit more stable, right? We're going to focus on one thing, maybe for the month, if that's what it takes, right? Try to get it farther out if you can, quarter, year. Any longer than that might be a little bit hard because conditions change. Know your problems, right? Why are users rejecting your product? Get to that core understanding of where you're just missing a little bit on product market fit, right? You have a business, which means you have some product market fit, which is awesome. A lot of products don't make it that far. But if users are rejecting your product, you haven't quite nailed it yet. Know your priorities. Where's the leak? Why here? Pull back the layers, right? Pull back the layers of the onion. Keep digging. Keep driving until you can fill in that because clause of the hypothesis. And then lastly, know your strategy. And we haven't talked about that yet. Here's a bit of a bonus. Product strategy, we could have a whole other session on this. But implicitly here in this whole conversation, we decided that helping users get through the existing flow would best achieve our business goals, right? Through that existing flow in the existing product. As a PM, you often have all sorts of options available to you. This one flow in this one product, right? Maybe that's not the best, right? Maybe that isn't. You can think about who you're targeting and how you're targeting them with existing products, new options on top of that product, new tech or new products entirely, right? Are you going after existing customers, competitors' customers, new customers, or even new markets? All right, we've spent our time talking about a product strategy here. Right? How do you work on your existing product to get more out of your existing users and perhaps steal some of your competitors or other customers who haven't made a decision yet on the product? We'll save that for next time though. That's a big topic in itself that we can unpack. But that's what I have for you today. Thanks very much.